Disclaimer, I'm not an immigration expert. If you think your situation is complicated, you can decide to contract with an immigration expert before you apply. But generally, I've applied for all of the visas aside from the visitor's visa. I've applied for them myself and they've been successful. Only one instance was not successful and we had to deal with it, which I've explained in this video as well. Okay, so I'm doing this video to do a walkthrough of how to apply for a UK visitor's visa as an example. So starting from the fact that this is a developed country, and so most of the things that information that you require would be found on Google. So I'll start off by just searching apply for UK visa, and then the registered UK government website is gov.uk. So you can be sure that any information that you find on this site are very relevant and accurate. And because for various departments, they always update all of their information on their site. So I'm going to click on this now to apply for a visa to come to the UK. Then scrolling down, there's this link where you can follow through. If you click on that link, you can follow through and just do a check on the visa that you need. It's going to ask you a couple of questions. What country are you coming from and things like that. And then it's going to confirm to you whether you need a visa or not and the type of visa that is going to be. So if I continue and I say, okay, I'm going to visit a family and continue, will you be traveling with or visiting either your partner? If I say no or yes, then it's going to confirm to me the type of visa that I'm going for. So in this example, I'm using standard visitors visa for people who want to apply for their family to just come visit them for a couple of months. For people who have, all right, so I'm going to click on apply for a standard visitors visa. Then on this page, you have just some guide on what you can do and what you cannot do. So if you are applying for a UK visitor's visa, you need to have a few things, you need to bear a few things in mind in the whole process. One, you must be able to prove that you have a genuine reason to return back to your originating country. That is, you are only going to the UK for the purpose for which you have stated, and you are definitely going to return back, and you would not be constituting a nuisance in the system in the UK because you're stuck. Then the other thing to bear in mind is you must be able to prove that you have enough funds to take care of all of your expenses while you are in the UK. So if you're able to prove these things, and then you also have a valid reason to come to the UK, that's the third thing I will mention. If these things are satisfactory, then you're sure to get a UK visa. So I'm going to be talking through some points along the line as we go on in this application. All right, so scrolling down, what you need to do, what you can do, what you cannot do. Here, I'm going to say that some people get mistaken to think that they can come to the UK on a visitor's visa and work. You are not expected to work while you're on a visitor's visa. You have stated to the authorities that you're here just to come to visit friends or family or for vacation or things like that, but you're not meant to earn a living in the UK. So if you're doing that, you're going against the law. Okay. Check you meet eligibility criteria, blah blah blah. Like I said, you must be able to show that you leave the UK at the end of your visit. You're able to support yourself with all the necessary expenses. You're able to pay for your return, and then you will not leave more than the period that you have been granted in the UK. Okay. All right. So at the end, we'll see you must apply for a standard visitors visa. So I'm going to click on that. Applying for that here on this page is just showing us the cost that it is. And here, a bonus point. So here I'm going to say that the starting point for getting visitor visa, if it's your first time, is you go for a 6 months. You'll start with a 6 months. But then some people then further assume that, oh, you must follow the ladder from 6 months. The next one should be 12 months. The next one should be 1 year. I mean, 2 years. The next one should be 5 years and 10 years. That you cannot go from 6 months to 5 years. And I'm going to say that that's not true because I know my brother who has always applied for 6 months every time he came to the UK for a couple of times. And then the last one that he did, he went straight for a 5 years visa application and it was successful. He didn't have to do a 2 year visa. So just bear that in mind if this is not your first time and you want to go for a 5 year so that you don't have to always be going for the visa biometrics all the time. Then you can try your luck and do that. Okay, let's get started with it. Apply now. I'm just going to accept that cookies, hide that message. Yeah, you select your language, you select English, and then next. Okay, the country where I'll be providing my biometrics, I'm going to choose Nigeria. As soon as you're typing, you'll find that list. Then I know that Nigeria, there are a couple of locations where biometrics can be done. So I'll say click on that and then move on. These are just some guides which you can which you can read in your leisure. And just to mention that tuberculosis test is mostly for when people are staying in the UK for more than 6 months. And in the case of a standard visitors visa, even if you have a 5 year valid visitors visa, you're not expected to stay more in the UK for more than 6 months on a stretch. So, which means usually you would not need a TB test on a standard visitors visa. Okay, how to apply, blah blah blah. Those are just some guidance, and I'm just gonna say start now. So the starting point is to register with an email. You just have to have an email, and I'm gonna use that email, and I'll create a password. I just use suggested password for the purpose of this demo. Who does this email belong to? So in case you're applying for someone else, which in my case, the times that I've applied, I applied on behalf of my parents or my parent-in-law. So I sometimes just say, oh, someone else, and I state exactly who it is. So in this case, I'm just going to go to say that someone else. And then, do you have an email address? I say no. Provide your telephone number. I'm just going to put for use whilst in the UK. Mobile telephone number, save and continue. Those are just some contact information. Do I have any other? I'll say no. If you have any other, for example, maybe the one in your originating country, Nigeria, you can provide that so that they can reach you if necessary. Are you able to be contacted by phone? Yep. I'd say telephone or text message. Yeah, and text message. Okay, so let's go. All about is the name, and their family name is settlement because this is just a demo. In addition to the names already provided, are you now or ever been known by another name? No. Sex, I'm just going to choose male. Relationship status, I'm married, so I'm just going to choose that for the purpose of this video. My address, I'll put just a random address. So in the case of this video, I'm assuming that I'm applying for my mother-in-law or for my mom, for someone else. So I'll just stick to that throughout my explanations, and then I'll include any additional comments as necessary as well. The town is Lagos, province, state is Lagos, just random details. Yep, they can use that for correspondence. How long have I lived here? So usually they would want you to provide information about where you have lived for about 3 years. So you want to just bear that in mind. In this case, I'm just going to choose, I'm just going to say 3 years. What's the ownership status? I rent it. They wouldn't necessarily ask for your rental. In the cases more than 4 times that I've applied, I've never had to provide any rental agreement or evidence of ownership of a property. I've never done that. Okay, passport number. I'm just going to use a random number. The issuing authority, usually in Nigeria, most of the time people do it at Ikoyi. Enter issue date, a random date, let's say 01. No, issue date, I'll say 2022, and for 5 years valid passport. So that's going to be 3103, 2027. Of course, all of those information you'll find on your passport. Do you have a national identity card? In the times I've done it, I've always clicked no because national identity card is not available. Country of nationality remains Nigeria, and place of birth I'd say Lagos. Date of birth I'd say uh, do you currently hold or have ever held any other nationality? In this case, you might, if you click yes, you might have to be providing the evidence of the other nationality that you have. But for the purpose of this example and the person that I'm applying for, my mom or my mother-in-law, they don't have any other nationality. So I click no there and I click continue. What's your employment status? I say now, this is a catch. In one of the instances where the visa for my mother-in-law was rejected, we had said that she was unemployed, and then in another question where we were being asked about our income, our savings, we said she has this kind of income, she has this savings, and it was rejected on the basis that that was inconsistent. So please bear in mind when you are filling this form and going through the questions, try to be as consistent as possible. So if you're saying someone is employed, then that follows that the person has a regular income which you disclose at the point where you are being asked, and then that's fine, that's consistent. But if you say, and if you say the person is self-employed as well, that means the person has an income. In the case of self-employed, you may have to provide some evidence such as the person's the certificate of registration of the person's business, just in case if it was asked. So sometimes when you've submitted your application, the visa officer can send you an email asking for further details. They do that oftentimes if they just feel maybe they just need additional supporting documents. So they can ask for that. So just be as truthful as possible throughout this application. And then now, if you uh, in the case of my mom, she's retired, so I'm clicking retired here. So in the case of my mother-in-law, after it was rejected the first time, then we came back to apply again, and we said she's unemployed, but then we had to include additional comment somewhere to say that she is a petty trader, and so that she's a petty trader who deals in some little transactions thereabout. So that was why, and then we had to write a new letter to explain the reason why there might have been a misunderstanding in the previous application, to say that she's a petty trader. We chose unemployed as the best answer, and we also attached the certificate of registration of our business together with the new application, and we also attached a bank statement. So usually, I haven't had to attach my mom's bank statement in all of the times that I've applied for a visa, 3 times. So, but in the case of my mother-in-law, because it was rejected the first time, we had to now provide reasonable uh, and sufficient information to back up the new application. So yeah, so just bear that in mind as a tip in this application process. What's your employment status? I'm going to say retired. Your income and savings. I was talking about this earlier. Do you have another income or any savings? So I'd say savings, and I'm going to say other regular additional income as well, kind of. And I'll click allowance because children give allowances to their parents. And in case they receive pension as well, you can click pensions. And if they have investment income as well, you can click on that. Another income, you might have to just give further detail on that. So total amount of regular additional income, you have the option of putting that in GBP or in pounds. So I'm gonna or in naira. So I'm just gonna put that in naira, and I'd say that they receive an allowance of, let's say, 50,000, including pensions every month. No, that's supposed to be per year, so that's gonna be 600,000 in a year. Then savings, um, it's asking for this only in GBP. So what I've done now here, in the case if you have to provide bank statement, you want to make sure that you the balance in the bank statement matches the amount that you're disclosing in this place. So in the case of my mother-in-law, where I provided the bank statement, I make sure that the closing balance on the bank statement matches that. I just went to Google what's the exchange rate GBP to Naira, and I put start. So let's say there's a savings or the closing balance in the bank statement of, let's say, 500,000 Naira. That should be something around maybe £600 thereabout. Okay, let's continue. How much money are you personally planning to spend on your visit to the UK? Now, here, you want to make sure that whatever you're disclosing can be matched with what you have said you're earning every month and what you said you have in savings as well. So please be careful you're not putting too much amount on here. And although as a sponsor, so one of the supporting documents that have to go with this visa application is the sponsor's invitation letter. As a sponsor, I've always disclosed in the letter, invitation letter, that I will cover all of their expenses. So they don't have to include any significant amount on this place, right? But in that case where I say I'm covering all of the expenses while in the UK, that means my own bank statement as the sponsor have to be able to support that. Okay. So I'm just going to put this in Naira and say they intend to spend, let's say, 200,000 Naira. And that's reasonable. In the previous question, I said they have regular income of 600,000 in a year. And then they also have currently £600 in their account as savings. So £600 as savings is roughly around 500,000. So which means they are able to support themselves with 200,000 to a reasonable extent. Now, another thing is that if they don't have a sponsor who has disclosed that they will be covering their expenses, they want to make sure that this 200,000 is reasonable to cover flight, accommodation, and uh, everyday expenses throughout the period that you intend to stay. So at some place you would have to put the date, the period, the length of period that you want to stay in the UK. So if you say you're staying for for 5 months, for example, and you're saying you'll be spending 200,000, 200,000 is roughly around maybe 300 pounds. £300 is not enough to last even a month in the UK, talk less of 6 months, 5 months if you intend to stay for 5 months. So make sure that whatever you're writing here is reasonable and it gives comfort to the visa approving officer that you know what you're saying. So what you want to do is check in with people or just go on Google and just try to do some research on the estimated cost of living in the UK for the period that you are in the UK. And then you have to put that in here and then make sure that your savings and your regular income that you stated in previous questions are consistent with whatever you're putting in here. But if you have your sponsor clearly stating that they are bearing all your expenses, then that is sorted. All right, let's move on. What's the total amount of money you spend each month? So what you're trying to capture here is if you say you're receiving 600,000 per year in a month and you have savings of 500,000 at the moment. So they're trying to help you to calculate what your current obligations are. If you are able to meet those obligations that you're going to be disclosing here and still have enough to be able to spend that amount that you say you want to come to spend in the UK and be able to cover all of your expenses and reasonably return back to your country. So those things again have to be all consistent. So what's the total amount you spend every month? I'm just going to put that in naira, and I'd say I don't spend more than probably 40,000 naira. And here, so if I'm receiving 50,000 per month, so if I'm receiving 50,000 naira per month and I'm spending 40,000 naira per month, that means I have only 10,000 naira remaining in my account every month to add up to whatever I currently have in savings to be able to come to the UK to spend. So that is very lean, very, very lean. So the way to just cover for that in the case of my mom or my mother-in-law will be that I, as the sponsor, have declared that I'm taking care of all of their expenses. So let's move on. They would also ask at some point, will anyone, oh yeah, here we are. Will anyone be paying towards the cost of your visit? I'd say yes. And they will ask for further details. Who is the person? Someone I know, family or friend. And if you have your company or employer sponsoring you as well, you can put on those details. So I put in my name here, and I'm just going to put a random address. Person who is sponsoring, how much money would they be paying? So I put this in GBP, and I'd say that £1,500. That's a reasonable amount for the period of their stay. And why they helping? They are my son, whom I am visiting in UK. Period. Or you just, if you have any ties with the person, just explain. They want to make sure that there's a reasonable ground for the person who you have said will be sponsoring you will actually be sponsoring you. Will anyone else be paying towards cost of your visit? No, I'd say. Date you plan to arrive in the UK? So I'll just say now here you're supposed to apply earliest 3 months before your planned date of travel because the visa would usually take roughly from 3 weeks to 15 weeks thereabout. So I'll choose, let's say, I'm just going to put let's say August. Date you plan to leave the UK, so I'd put uh 31. Some people have said that, oh, if you use the whole of your 6 months when you come to the UK, you're less likely to get your next visa. I believe that's not right because I've seen someone who's done 5 months plus and they've gotten a renewed visa the next time they applied. So that's just a myth. They may have to talk which language you prefer, choose English. What's the main reason for your visit? So in this case, I'm choosing visiting family and friends. But yeah, you can choose any other one that fits into your situation. What's the main reason for your visit? Again, just to clarify which one of those three. I'm saying visiting family. Give details of your main visit. So, like I've mentioned in my previous videos, we just had our baby, and so my mother-in-law were coming to visit us to see their grandchild. So, say, um, this again has to be consistent with whatever content that the sponsor, the sponsor invitation letter is stating, so that there's no inconsistency and nothing to worry about by the visa application officer. And then in some cases where additional information might need to be provided, just to be as compelling as possible, please do. So in our case, where I've said they're coming to visit their grandchild, I provided what we call Mat B form or certificate. The Mat B form or certificate is one that shows that we are expecting a baby and the expected date of delivery. So I had to just apply that so that they are compelled to know that, oh, they actually have a child. I mean, we who are receiving them, we have a child that we're expecting. And in order to also evidence the fact that we are connected, I attached the marriage certificate of myself, my wife, in which my two parents were signed as the witnesses, so that their names were consistent with this application, and they know that we are actually connected. So that was part of it, and there was also picture from our wedding where our parents were there, and we attached that to as part of the application just to support. Use your partner's passport. I just give the same name here. And now, talking about having a partner, you have a higher chance of getting a successful visa because you're saying that you have a partner back in Nigeria, and it's compelling enough to say that you have to return back to your partner because you are still married to them and you're taking care of them. So it's just one of them is traveling just for a purpose to go and see their grandchild, and when they're done at the end of their granted period, they will be returning back to Nigeria. That's compelling enough. So again, throughout your application, wherever you're able to type in, just make sure you're explaining that you have definitely have a reason to return back to Nigeria at the end of your period. Does anyone rely on you for financial support? Here, they are also trying to gauge your income together with your obligations, together with your savings, if they all tie together to support your coming to the UK. And so I'm just going to say no. Give details of your two parents. I'll just give mother, which I've done in a couple of times, and I'd say that the other person is late. So let's say 01. Give details two of your parents. So I say, what if I do not have the two of them? I only have one of them, and that's it. Do you have any family in the UK? Now, you want to disclose as many of the family members that you know as possible, um, because you never can tell. Applications usually are taken as it is independently of any previous or subsequent applications. So, but then there's a database which shows your information, and these guys, if they ever have to check your for database for any reasons of suspicion, they want to check things out and make sure that they are consistent. So, you want to disclose if you are aware of any family member in the UK, you want to disclose all of them now, and But here, I'm just going to say no. Traveling as part of an organized group, I say no. Will you be traveling with someone who's not your dependent? I say no. Do you have an address for where you're going to stay in the UK? I'd say yes and provide the address of the people who I'm going to visit. So I'm just going to put the same address of where are you planning to stay. So I'm staying with the people who I'm visiting. So I'm just going to put the same name of the sponsor, their address. When will you arrive there? So I put here the same dates that I'll be arriving in the UK. So even if you intend to stay anywhere else, it's you can just keep it simple. I mean, one thing I noticed again for some of our friends whose visa have been denied, it's too much information, brings about inconsistency, and makes the visa application officer to just be pissed off and just deny unnecessarily, really. So you just want to keep things simple as well. So I just say I intend to travel on the 1st of August. So, and I intend to leave on 31. Will you be staying anywhere else? I'll say no. I've been to the UK in the past 10 years. So if you've had previous visas and you've ever been, yeah, you need to answer appropriately. But I'm taking this as the first time application. So I'd say no. How many times have you visited those places? It's the first time traveling. So I'm just going to say zero. Have you ever been to any other countries in the past 10 years? If you've ever been, then you would have to check your visa and you'll be providing relevant information of each time that you've been to any other country. They just want to have that. I'd say no. Have you ever been refused visa, deported? I'd say no. Have you ever entered? These are just some declaration to just in case when they do their own background check, if anything comes back to say that you have any issues, they have to check it back to some of these statements that you're making here. Right, so you want to be as truthful as possible so that you make every necessary disclosure and the visa officer can make the right decision. So you answer all of this appropriately. If you answer yes to some of these things, you have to give more details. Have you ever worked for any of the? In case of my mom, I said she's worked with the government and I provided details of that, but I didn't have to provide any information in regards to our employment contract or whatever. So just tick some of these things as necessary. And here is a chance to provide more information. If you think there's anything that might be unclear from all of the things that you've disclosed so far, you just use these points to make it clear. And so in some case, I've just stated here that again, the person I'm visiting is my son. I they are bearing all of my costs of staying in the UK. I don't intend to stay longer. In the case of my mother-in-law, I stated that she's a clergy woman and she's returning back to Nigeria to continue the mission work that she's doing. So that's it's just to add some other compelling reasons for her to be granted visa to say that she's not staying for longer than the period that she's been granted. So this is for you to review all of this again just you can share with the person who you are making the application on their behalf as well, just for them to check through if there's anything they feel is not right about them. So the mandatory documents that you have to provide, definitely you provide your passport, and then other documents, evidence of funds. So in the case of my mom in fact never uses her own personal bank account. So her bank account has been dormant for years. She has always used my own bank account to receive all the money from anyone and to dispense as necessary. So I never provided any information for her other than her passport. Every other thing was from me as the sponsor, the letter of invitation, and then because I have also stated I will be sponsoring all of our expenses, so I got a letter from my office to confirm that I have an employment with them and that this was my salary as well. And then I provided my bank statement and showing my savings as well. And then I also provided my own passport because you have to also provide evidence that your sponsor will not be in breach. So I provided my passport and my BRP with evidences that I have a legal right to be in the UK. And evidence of the relationship between you and your sponsor, again, I mentioned previously, I provided the picture from our wedding where my mom was in the picture. And then I also provided the marriage certificate where she was one of the witnesses. And in another scenario where I just wrote a sponsor invitation letter to someone and I did not disclose that I will be sponsoring their expenses, they have to provide their own bank statement and all the proof of funds and all of that. So just this will depend on the situation, the scenario. Just make sure that you are able to satisfy those necessary things. First, that you have enough money at your disposal to cover all of your costs for your travel. Second, that you have reasons to return back to Nigeria and you will not extend longer than the period that you've been granted to stay in the UK. So that's it. Then, oh, I have to tick all of this and then you continue. So from here, you just have to verify again that all of the information that you've provided are accurate and complete and you understand the terms and conditions. You In this case, you're stating whether you're the one submitting the application or someone else is submitting on your behalf. In the case of my parents, I've submitted on their behalf. So then the person who is submitting on their behalf has to provide their detail as well so that they know who it is. So, but just going to say I'm the applicant in this case. Then continue. And then here you select the length of your visit visa. Again, if it's your first, you would have to start from 6 months and then you can do any other years thereafter. So now you have to proceed to payment. And after the payment, as you can see at the top, after the payment, the further action will be for you to then be redirected to the visa application partner where you would book for appointment and then you make necessary payments for the appointment for the biometrics. Then you show up on the day of your application. You have the option of either uploading all the necessary documents on the visa application partners portal, or you can go there with those documents physically and they would sort out all of the application. But basically, all you just need to do is get there and do your biometrics, and that's all. There's nothing like interview. So when they've received those biometric details, will then forward it to the visa application center, and the decision would have to be made. If any further information is required, they will send you an email. All of the times that I've seen visas rejected, you would be sent an email ahead to state that, oh, this visa has been rejected on the basis of this and this and that. So usually, if you have not gotten any email like that, and you just got an email to say, oh, your decision has been made and your passport is ready for collection, you can safely assume that your visa application was successful. All right, so I'm going to then show some of the documents that I've provided in all of the times that I've applied. I'm just going to show for one of the scenarios. Sorry. So now I'm going to show the list of the documents that I provided or submitted on the portal at the point for one of the instances of the visa application. Okay, so on this folder, I kept some of the documents that I provided. I provided sponsor invitation letter coming from bottom, sponsor invitation letter, the reference from my office to state that I work with them and this is my salary. I provided 3 months pay slip as well, my BRP, my HSBC, my bank account, and where I also have savings, since I stated in the invitation letter that I'll be covering all of our expenses. Then I also provided, so when we were living in a rented apartment, I provided the rental agreement to state that I have a 2 bedroom apartment which is able to accommodate the person that I'm inviting over. But in the case of our purchased house, I provided the evidence of the purchased house, then a passport alone. And that was it. That was it. Um, I also provided the birth certificate of the grandson in another case to just say that, oh, we just had a baby and they're coming to visit to greet their grandson. Okay, so I hope you have found this useful. If you have any comments or any questions, just put them in the comment section in this video, and I'll try as much as possible to answer them. Um, Disclaimer, I'm not an immigration expert. If you think your situation is complicated, you can decide to contract with an immigration expert before you apply. But generally, I've applied for all of the visas aside from the visitor's visa. I've applied for them myself and they've been successful. Only one instance was not successful and we had to deal with it, which I've explained in this video as well. So I hope it's been valuable. There might have been one or two things I've missed out, so you can just let me know in the comment section and I can add up to it as a reply to anyone who cares to know. Thank you for watching to this point, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. Disclaimer, I'm not an immigration expert. If you think your situation is complicated, you can decide to contract with an immigration expert before you apply. But generally, I've applied for all of the visas aside from the visitor's visa. I've applied for them myself and they've been successful. Only one instance was not successful and we had to deal with it, which I've explained in this video as well. So I hope it's been valuable. There might have been one or two things I've missed out, so you can just let me know in the comment section and I can add up to it as a reply to anyone who cares to know. Thank you for watching to this point, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. So I hope it's been valuable. There might have been one or two things I've missed out, so you can just let me know in the comment section and I can add up to it as a reply to anyone who cares to know. Thank you for watching to this point, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.